One of the major situational factors that determine the pattern of motivation is the organizational context of behavior. How the organization we work in or belong to treat us, the kind of norms and values that operate in them, the kind of authority and power exercised, all affect our action and motivation powerfully. In the current lesson, we are going to study the dynamics of an organization. It follows from the previous slide that after studying this lesson, we would be able to classify the organizations on basis of power and involvement, understand the 6-box organizational mode, differentiate between leadership and management. Etzioni has provided a very useful typology of such individual-organization relationship by classifying organizations on the basis of the kind of power of authority they use to elicit compliance and the kind of involvement they elicit from members of the organization. On the authority dimension, Etzioni has identified 3 basically different types of organizations in terms of whether they use pure coercive power, economic or other material incentive, combined with rational legal authority or normative rewards or incentive. Organizations in this large group generally provide opportunities for their members to contribute to goals that are intrinsically valued and congruent with individual goals, and also display either a charismatic or a rational leadership style. Etzioni also distinguishes 3 types of involvement of organization members as alienative, or a person who is not psychologically involved but is coerced to remain as a member; calculative, which means that the person is involved to the extent of doing a fair day's work or a fair day's pay; and moral, which means that the person intrinsically values the mission of the organization and his or her job and is personally involved and identified with the organization. However, according to him, the type of personal involvement possibly depends to a large extent on the kind of power of authority exercised by the organization. That is why it becomes very important for us to know that an organization that uses coercive power, economic power and normative power predominantly elicits alternative, calculative and moral involvement respectively from its members. This figure shows the 6-box organizational model as developed by Wiesbod. The figure can be visualized as a radar screen, just as air controllers used to chart the course of aircraft height, speed, distance apart and weather. Those seeking to understand and improve an organization must observe relationships among the boxes and not necessarily focus on any particular blip. The figure also describes the boundary of an organization to be diagnosed. Environment means forces difficult to control from inside that demands a response. For example, the nature of customer preference or government policies or global economic developments, etc., which are not under the organizational control. Within the boundaries, the boxes interact to create what is sometimes called an input-output system, whose function is to transform resources into goods or services. Within each boxes are 2 potential trouble sources: the formal system that exists on paper and the informal system of what people actually do. Neither system is necessarily better, but both exist. Some modern concepts that influence organizational designs are emergence of learning organization, which is an innovative and flexible organization. There is also a strong existence of life cycle concepts which propounds that like human beings, the organizations also pass through stages like nascent stage, growth, maturity, decline and death. Further, various types of organization structure includes functional organizations, in which the organization is divided into functional departments like marketing, finance, HR and so on. product line organizations, in which the division is made on the basis of desired product or output, and matrix organization that provides a combination of both product and functional organizations. A very popular form is matrix organization, in which the member comprise of top management, matrix boss and two boss manager. Such an organization is based on dual chain of command and is marked by low formalization and flexibility. A big disadvantage is that the matrix organization usually fail because of low focus on organizational culture. Due to the failure of a certain strict structure, certain changes are required to be brought in the organization. These changes can be either strategic or incremental. While strategic changes constitute of fundamental and radical changes that affect the overall functioning of the organization, the incremental changes occur within the given strategy and cultural context of the organization. Organizational changes and innovation may be done reacting to the external environmental changes. Taking the environment as is given, such a change would be known as a reactive change, since it occurs as a reaction to the external changes. An example of a reactive change may be change in a wage policy due to change in government policy. On the other hand, the organization may act in a proactive manner and preempt the environment by making changes in anticipation of the way the environment will change. Such changes would be known as anticipatory changes, since they occur in anticipation of an external change. For example, if an organization changes its pricing policy anticipating a future competition, it would be known as an anticipatory change. Now let us check our progress. Let us find out if we know whether these statements are true or false. Number 1. The concept of learning organization is a traditional one. Is this statement true or false? The concept of learning organizations is a traditional one. If you remember, we have discussed learning organization as a modern concept. That is why this statement is false. Now the next sentence. Coercive power discourages employees and hence lowers their efficiency. Coercive power discourages employees and hence lowers their efficiency. What is this statement in your opinion? True or false? Needless to prove, this statement is true. If you make the employees do something that they are unwilling to do, it would definitely reduce their efficiency and also discourage them. Now, let us move on to the third and the last sentence. Companies putting their product on sale after high inflation is a reactive change. Is this statement true or false? Company putting their products on sale after high inflation is a reactive change. Did you pay attention to the word after? After high inflation. After shows reactions. Hence, the statement is true. Before the small break of checking our progress, we were discussing organizational change. Getting further on the topic, let us now discuss the process of organizing for innovation. The process is triggered by changes in tasks that may include problem-solving process, broadened activity for employees, and job enlargement. People, in which the changes may be required, especially in education, for a multifunctional perspective, communication skills, and conflict resolution, diversifying expertise, enhancing team building skills, etc. Formal organization structure processes and systems like linking mechanism through teams, committees, and task forces. Designing to encourage venturing and entrepreneurship through venture capital, joint ventures, acquisition, and internal venturing. And last but not the least, the changes required in informal organization like focusing on core values as an integrating mechanism instead of direct supervision, standardization, etc. and rewarding risk to facilitate a tolerance of failure, facilitate an environment supportive of innovating. The subject of leadership has received much attention in literature, but The role of leadership as a visionary force, a change agent, and the key integrating force in the innovative organization has come into focus only recently. The term leadership has meant different things to different people, under different environmental context. The two common meanings are: leadership is a stabilizing force, which mobilizes the workforce, coordinates, controls, and directs the organization in the desired direction. The second and more recent interpretation is of leadership that establishes the direction for the company by developing a vision for the future. Communicating the same to the organization provides a psychological focus point for concentrating the energies and hopes of the people in the organization, crafting the requisite culture to implement the change, and developing support for the vision, and motivating and inspiring employees in the right direction. Shown on the screen are the salient points of difference between managers and leaders. Hence we can say that the role of a leader spreads over to build up an effective and dynamic senior team or management, broaden the activity areas of senior management, and identify managerial competencies and nourish them. Taking a brief revision, we conclude that organizations should change for good and adopt more innovative structures. Organizations should adopt favorable changes keeping in mind its culture, and that organizations should encourage managers to be leaders. Thank you.